The story begins at Heisei Private High School, where Rintaro Shido attends class alongside the school's idol, Rei Otosaki. Due to her mixed heritage, the girl stands out with her beauty and presence, earning admiration from the entire school. Rintaro, however, remains indifferent, watching calmly as the attention swirls around her. While Rei stays cool as classmates ask for autographs, he casually chats with his friend, Yukio Inaba, who is frequently mistaken for a girl. He comments on the idol's unwavering popularity. Rintaro notes that her group, Melista, is performing well, citing high view counts and international attention. The conversation shifts to the protagonist's schedule as Yukio asks about his part-time job. He confirms he has taken on a temporary, high-paying gig. The friend points out the irony of his working so hard despite his life's ambition to avoid labor entirely. Rintaro explains that his cousin, the manga artist Ugetsu Ichiko-sensei, has become incredibly popular. He stepped in because her assistants cannot keep up with the workload. Despite his current hustle, our lad reaffirms his ultimate dream, to find a hardworking woman and become a dedicated house husband. He vividly imagines himself cooking and cleaning, determined to avoid a life of constant employment. Yukio is baffled by his friend's determination, especially since he lacks a partner to support this lifestyle. As the lesson resumes, Rintaro glances at Rei, wondering if someone so seemingly perfect has any hidden struggles. Unexpectedly, she catches his gaze and looks back at him, deep in thought. Later that day, Rintaro arrives at his cousin's studio with refreshments. He greets Yuzuki, thanking her for her hard work. The manga artist, who hasn't slept in 2 days, accepts the energy drink gratefully. Being her assistant, he scolds her for her unhealthy habits before settling in to help. As he admires the handwritten manuscripts, he understands why she chooses such painstaking methods despite the tight deadline. After the shift concludes, Yuzuki thanks him profusely for his reliability. He promises to return whenever needed and heads home. During his commute, he notices a luxury car navigating his neighborhood. To his surprise, Rei steps out of the vehicle, disguised in a hat and glasses but still wearing her uniform. Realizing the idol lives nearby, Rintaro decides to ignore her to prevent any potential scandals or misunderstandings. However, as he attempts to walk past, he notices her staggering dangerously. Before she hits the ground, he rushes forward and catches her. The disoriented girl whispers his name, shocking him with the realization that she knows who he is. He frantically asks if she is injured or needs an ambulance. She denies needing medical help, revealing that she is hungry. As if to confirm her statement, her stomach growls loudly, leaving Rintaro completely speechless. Rintaro is stunned to learn that she collapsed simply because she was hungry. He laughs nervously, admitting he feared she was suffering from a serious illness, while she pulls her hand away, embarrassed by the situation. Deciding to drop the formalities, he sits down and teases her, asking if hunger is really enough to immobilize her. The idol is surprised by his casual tone. When pressed about why she didn't eat, she explains that her schedule was packed to the minute with recordings and interviews, forcing her to push through without food. Rintaro realizes that this grueling lifestyle is expected of a top celebrity. Noticing the noise level rising and people gathering nearby, the high schooler realizes it is only a matter of time before they spot the famous star. Uncomfortable leaving a classmate in such a state, he decides to act. He picks up her bags and offers a choice. He can drop her off at the nearest diner or carry her to his place where he will make dinner. To his surprise, Rei climbs onto his back, declaring she is interested in his cooking. As Rintaro carries her, he tries to ignore the physical proximity. To distract himself, he mentions he has pork in the fridge that expires today. She agrees to the menu and excitedly points her finger forward like a commander, causing him to question why she is suddenly in charge. Upon arriving at his apartment, he vaguely explains that he lives alone. He places the exhausted guest on the sofa and removes her shoes for her. Rei thanks him and immediately lies down. Rintaro puts on an apron and confirms the pork menu, asking for her preference. She requests shogayaki, ginger pork. He warns her that the rice is instant and will take a moment, but she nods agreeably. Rintaro cooks quickly, and Rei is immediately captivated by the aroma. When the food is served, she takes a bite and is mesmerized by the taste. She watches in amazement as she devours the meal at incredible speed, declaring it the best she has ever tasted. Within seconds, the bowl is empty. Rei asks if he always cooks for himself. Rintaro explains that he cooks to save money for his living expenses and his future wife. He reveals his firm life goal, to become a house husband who provides tasty, healthy food for a hard-working partner. After a brief silence, our idol smiles and sincerely praises him, stating that it is great he is working hard for his dream. The boy is shocked, having expected mockery, but the girl believes his dreams are on a different level than those of an idol. Suddenly, a TV interview featuring the group Melissa begins playing. Watching herself on screen, Ray explains that being an idol has been her dream since childhood. She adds that she respects anyone who works hard to achieve their goals and wants to support them. Touched by her sentiment, Rintaro admits he might have become her fan for the first time today. The girl replies that she is now his fan as well and declares she wants to eat at his place again. However, he refuses immediately. He argues that a top idol associating with a normal high schooler would cause a controversy that would ruin her reputation, and he cannot take responsibility for that. Ray looks depressed, but accepts his logic. Trying to be practical, he insists that for both their sakes, they must stay away from each other outside of school. Noting how late it is, he offers to walk her home. Ray makes a noise of refusal. When he presses her to use words, he realizes with horror that she actually intends to stay the night. Rintaro sternly lectures Ray, emphasizing that having an idol sleep over at a guy's house is a serious matter. He questions her lack of danger awareness and insists she go home despite her fatigue. The girl apologizes meekly, admitting she cannot argue with him and agreeing to listen. The protagonist calls a cab for her, internally questioning why he finds himself in the position of lecturing a celebrity. Attempting to set boundaries, he suggests they forget everything about today and return to being just classmates who happen to know each other. However, he softens the rejection by admitting he is glad she liked his cooking as it gave him confidence. Ray smiles, deeply touched by his kindness. She hesitates before proposing a compromise. Instead of remaining distant classmates, she hopes he will allow her to call him a friend. Rintaro blushes, realizing no man could refuse such a request, and agrees that it isn't weird. As she leaves, promising to see him at school, Rintaro is left exhausted, wondering what is so great about being friends with someone like him. The next day at school, our lad watches the idol interact with her friends as usual. He breathes a sigh of relief, thinking that since she seems normal, she must have made it home safely. His best friend Yukio turns around and remarks that it is unusual for Rintaro to be staring at Otosaki. The boy tries to play it off, claiming he stared at her yesterday too, but Yukio insists the look in his eyes is different than usual. Rintaro dismisses it as his imagination, though internally he realizes his friend is dangerously sharp. Just then, Rintaro receives a notification from Yuzuki. It is an emergency. The manga artist has found a mistake in the manuscript and needs his help again. Yukio expresses jealousy that his friend gets to work for a famous creator, but the assistant recalls the zombie-like reality of his cousin and mentally disagrees. After school, Rintaro rushes to Yuzuki's studio. The artist explains that she accidentally drew a character who wasn't supposed to be there for an entire chapter and had already sent her assistants home. He sighs, but agrees to help, motivated by the promise of higher wages. He tells her to stop apologizing and start working. As they grind through the work, Yuzuki complains that she can no longer feel her fingers, and Rintaro notes that she is completely zombified. It is 11 o'clock when he finally heads home, wondering what to make for dinner. Arriving at the lobby of his apartment building, he prepares to head up. In the lobby of his apartment building, Rintaro spots a suspicious figure curled up wearing a hoodie, mask, and glasses. He approaches the intruder, only to realize it is Otosaki. The girl removes her mask, revealing she has been waiting for him all this time to ask a favor. Shocked by her persistence, the boy invites her inside to hear her request. Once in the apartment, Rintaro prepares coffee exactly to her liking, plenty of sugar and a splash of milk. Ray confesses that she has been thinking about it all day and desperately wants to eat his cooking again. She insists that the bento she eats at lunch and backstage simply cannot compare to the food he made. Rintaro blushes at the compliment but tries to remain rational. He refuses her request, pointing out that being seen together would be fatal for her career. Furthermore, he argues that cooking for two would double his food costs, hampering his ability to save every penny for his future in case he never marries. In response, Ray opens her purse and places a bundle of cash on the table. She offers to pay him a monthly salary of 300,000 yen, in addition to covering the food costs for both of them, just to have him feed her every day. Rintaro is stunned, realizing he is being lured by money. He asks if she can really sustain such payments, but she lists her 5 upcoming commercials, strong song sales, and concerts as proof of her financial stability. When he hesitates, our idol asks if the amount is insufficient and offers to raise it to 500,000 yen. Rintaro shouts for her to wait and quickly accepts the original offer. He admits he needs the money to live and is honestly happy that she values his work so highly. However, he sets a strict condition. She must be extremely careful not to get caught visiting his room. Ray agrees, affirming that she wants to continue being an idol. She extends her pinky finger to seal the deal. Rintaro thinks she is a maniac for paying 300,000 yen just to have a classmate cook dinner, but admits he is just as much of a sucker for accepting it. They make a pinky promise, and immediately after, Rei demands curry right now. Rintaro agrees to make the curry, but warns that it will take a while to prepare. Rei casually dismisses the concern, announcing that she will simply stay the night. He is completely flustered by the declaration, but the idol explains her logic. She hired him to make food every day, which includes breakfast. She argues that walking home now and returning in the morning would deprive her of sleep. Rintaro firmly refuses, insisting that high school students living together is bad in many ways, especially given her status as an idol. In response, Rei reaches into her bag and pulls out more cash. She raises her offer to a total of 500,000 yen per month and promises to be extremely careful. He is amazed and instantly caves to the power of money, apologizing internally for his weak will, but reasoning that a chef charging such a fee is unheard of. Deciding not to be stingy with the ingredients anymore, the cook selects high-quality potatoes. He prepares a Japanese-style curry using soy sauce and dashi, adding yakiniku sauce as a secret ingredient. Once the heat is perfect and the plating is complete, Rintaro serves the food to Rei. The guest is excited, declaring she has been waiting for this. The boy explains he tweaked the taste to be more Japanese, hoping it suits her palate. Rei thanks him for the meal and begins eating rapidly, immediately praising its deliciousness. Rintaro smiles, noting that she looks genuinely happy. Seeing her eyes shine so brightly as she eats, he realizes her praise is not flattery. Although he served a large portion, the idol finishes it in an instant and asks for a second helping. Rintaro is baffled, wondering where all that food goes in her slender frame. Rei explains that idols need a lot of food to endure their tough training, noting that the first serving was insufficient. Rintaro thinks the job might be worth the effort after all. As he washes the dishes, the girl thanks him again. However, the protagonist questions the situation, asking why she wants to eat commoners' food when she could easily afford something better. He admits that receiving 500,000 yen just to cook for an idol and have her stay over feels like a fraud. Rei opens up, revealing that while her family is wealthy, both her parents are very busy and rarely home. Her meals were always prepared by a housekeeper, but for some reason, that food never felt warm to her. She looks at Rintaro and confesses that his rice was warmer than any other she has eaten, making her very happy. Touched by her vulnerability, the boy awkwardly replies that it is not a big deal. Checking the time, Rintaro suggests that Rei take a bath and offers to heat up the water. He apologizes in advance, noting that he only has men's shampoo available, but the idol reveals she came prepared and bought her own toiletries. The protagonist then asks about her sleepwear, pointing out that sleeping in a hoodie would be uncomfortable. Rei casually announces that she intends to borrow one of his t-shirts. Rintaro is startled, but the girl explains her logic. Since the shirt is his size, it will fit her like a dress. She adds that she prefers not to wear pants at night because tight clothing feels restrictive. Rintaro blushes furiously, realizing that wearing a boyfriend's shirt is a classic romantic trope and thinking that she is behaving exactly like a girlfriend. Concerned by her lack of caution, Rintaro warns her that she is too vulnerable and needs to be careful because men are beasts. She asks if he is a beast as well. Our lad denies it, stating that he would never attack his employer because he has to take care of his client. Rei remarks that while money handlers can be terrible, the financial motivation actually comforts her, as it makes him safe to be around. Suddenly, Rei asks him point blank if he likes her body too. Rintaro spits out the water he was drinking in shock. Rei confesses that lately, everyone seems to be staring at her body at school and work, making her fearful. She expresses a desire for people to appreciate her for her singing and dancing instead. Internally, he admits that guys look at her erotically because she has matured from a slender debutante into a curvy high schooler. However, aloud, he offers reassurance. He acknowledges that while looks helped her debut, they aren't everything. He honestly praises her amazing singing and dancing, noting that he can tell how much she practices. He adds that her purity is also attractive and that the combination of all these traits is what makes her special. Rei smiles gently and thanks him. After the conversation, Rei enters the bathroom to shower. Rintaro listens to the sound of running water, realizing it is the first time anyone other than himself has used his shower. He goes to his wardrobe to select a t-shirt for her, deciding that size matters more than style. The bigger, the better. He selects a shirt emblazoned with his life's motto, "I do not want to work." Feeling he should hurry, Rintaro walks toward the bathroom to hand it to her. Just as he raises his hand to knock, Rei opens the door from the inside. At that exact moment, the towel wrapped around her body slips and falls completely. Rintaro stands there, stunned by the sudden exposure. He turns around in a panic, averting his eyes as he hands the t-shirt to Rei. He frantically apologizes, insisting he didn't see anything, and instructs her to put the shirt on and use the hairdryer in the living room. Once she is dressed and drying her hair, the boy exits the bath, noting that her fragrance is filling the air. He sits down and confesses again that he looked away immediately, but the idol dismisses the incident as a mere coincidence and tells him not to worry. The pair settles in to watch TV, which happens to be airing a Melista broadcast. Rintaro wonders if she is self-conscious about her own appearance on stage. Suddenly, Rei mutters that she should have waved her arms wider in that specific scene. He comments that she is being too detailed for anyone to notice, but the girl stands up to demonstrate the difference between what she did and what she should have done. Rintaro is stunned by the shift in her demeanor. Seeing her professional face up close reminds him that she is, indeed, a top idol whose thoughts are impossible to read. She eventually loses focus and begins to nod off. Rintaro suggests it is time for bed. The guest nods, comparing the delicious meal and warm bath to the relaxation of staying at a ryokan, traditional inn. She attempts to lie down on the sofa, but Rintaro refuses to let an idol sleep on the couch. He leads her to his bedroom. Rei jumps onto the bed, enjoying the comfort, and invites the boy to squeeze in beside her so they can sleep together. Rintaro shouts a refusal, telling her to just go to sleep since she has work tomorrow. Rei claims she has good sleeping posture and falls asleep instantly. Rintaro tucks her in and retreats to the sofa, exhausted by the day's events. As he sleeps, he has a recurring dream of his younger self asking his mother where she is going. In the dream, his mother, leaving for work, replies, "Sorry, I want to be free." Rintaro wakes up realizing he has seen this dream many times. However, upon fully waking, he realizes he is still in a reality where Rei Otosaki exists, making reality feel more like a dream than the nightmare. After freshening up, the protagonist knocks on the bedroom door to wake his guest. Receiving no answer, he nervously enters and is shocked by her chaotic sleeping posture, which completely contradicts her earlier claim. Flustered and wondering if she is wearing undergarments beneath the shirt, he fixes the blanket over her. He calls out for her to rise and shine. Rei wakes up groggily, clearly not a morning person. Later, Rintaro asks how she likes her sunny-side-up eggs. Rei requests them slightly runny. As he cooks, she praises the appetizing look of the hot food. They pray and begin to eat, with the idol once again praising the delicious taste. Rintaro explains he seasoned the bacon strongly to go well with the meal, encouraging her to eat a lot to build stamina for her lessons. After eating, Rei announces she has come up with an idea. Rintaro immediately feels a sense of foreboding. The girl argues that it is difficult to have breakfast together if they live in separate houses. She proposes that they rent a new place and live together. Rintaro is floored, thinking that, as expected, she has come up with something absolutely ridiculous. He firmly rejects the idea of living together. When she asks why, he explains the logical flaw. If she suddenly stops living alone, the public will get suspicious, and they likely won't accept the change. The idol admits that would be worrisome, so they agree to put the idea on hold for now. Observing her, the protagonist thinks that she is somewhat dog-like and seems to be in need of training, wondering who is actually the boss in this relationship. As she eats breakfast, she declares it is the first time she has had such a good meal. Rintaro tells her to leave it to him, as he is her personal chef. The girl then insists that he call her by her first name, Rei, and she will call him Rintaro. He protests, reminding her that he is the underling and she is the employer. However, Rei makes it a direct order, claiming it will help them get along better. Rintaro blushes but capitulates, and they agree to use first names moving forward. A little over a week passes since their unexpected life together began. The pair establishes a routine. They go to school at different times, use disguises, and return separately to keep a low profile. Rei does not stay over every night. Sometimes her manager picks her up, which relieves Rintaro slightly. On days she works, he prepares a breakfast bento for her, though she often looks unhappy about leaving. To cover her tracks, she tells her housekeeper she is staying at a friend's house, much like a girl hiding a new boyfriend. The issue regarding sleeping arrangements was resolved when Rei casually bought a new sofa bed, leaving Rintaro amazed by the disposable income of a successful idol. The scene shifts to Heisei High School during PE class, where the students are playing volleyball. As Rintaro watches Rei play, he feels he is getting used to this lifestyle. His friend, Yukio Inaba, notices a change and comments that Rintaro seems much more relaxed and slack lately. The protagonist attributes this to his improved living standards. Yukio suspiciously asks if he got a girlfriend. Rintaro denies this vehemently, reiterating that he has no intention of dating until he finds someone to support him for the rest of his life. Yukio is relieved it was a misunderstanding. Just then, Rei hits the ball with amazing speed and skill, drawing praise from the girls. Rintaro notes that she is naturally athletic and performs as well as a club member. However, when she jumps to throw the ball, the boys in the class make vulgar comments about her body. Rintaro feels uncomfortable hearing this. When Yukio asks what is wrong, Rintaro replies that he is relieved to see people who are even more vulgar than himself. Yukio giggles, but Rintaro thinks that looking down on them would only make him just as bad. Later at lunch, Rintaro opens his bento and Yukio praises how amazing it looks. The protagonist explains that he makes different food for himself and Rei, so no one suspects they were made by the same person. He shares some of his nikujaga, meat and potato stew, with his friend. Meanwhile, a crowd of students hovers around Rei, admiring her beautiful lunch. Rintaro gets nervous at the attention, but Rei smoothly lies, claiming she made it herself. The classmates are impressed that she cooks despite her busy schedule. Yukio asks why Rintaro looks so smug. He admits he can't help it. His food is just that good, and it feels nice to be praised, even indirectly. That evening at home, Rei suddenly apologizes. Rintaro pauses his dishwashing, confused. She explains she is sorry for taking credit for his bento. The cook assures her it is better that way, as a little white lie helps keep his existence a secret. However, Rei reveals she hasn't kept it a secret from everyone. She told the other members of Melista about him. Rintaro shouts in shock, reminding her he told her not to tell outsiders. Rei insists that Mia and Kanan are not outsiders and that she trusts them implicitly. Rintaro calms down, reasoning that the other members wouldn't risk their own careers by exposing a scandal involving their groupmate. He agrees to trust her judgment. Rei then asks a favor. Since they have a self-practice session tomorrow at the studio, she wants him to make bento for all three of them and bring it over. Rintaro is stunned but agrees. The next day, at the Fantasia Entertainment Studio in Nishi Shinjuku, Mia and Kanon are practicing. Kanon comments that the guest should be arriving soon, noting she won't accept the food if it isn't good since Rei bragged about it so much. Internally, Mia wonders what kind of person could have tamed Rei and looks forward to seeing what he has got. Arriving at the entertainment agency, Rintaro Shido questions if a regular guy like him really belongs in such a place. He approaches the receptionist to announce his appointment with Rei Otasaki at 12 o'clock. After a brief wait, the idol appears to collect him. Rintaro is stunned by her appearance but politely follows her to the elevator. As they ride up, Rei explains that she will guide him because the building's interior is complex. He stares at her, noting she seems different than usual. They walk through the corridors, which are lined with studios built specifically for music artists. Rintaro suggests leaving the bento with her and leaving, but Rei insists that the other two members are looking forward to meeting him. She opens the door, revealing Mia and Kanon waiting inside. He realizes he is standing before the stars of Melista. Kanon approaches him first, apologizing for being pushy, but explaining that Rei kept bragging about how good the food tasted. Rintaro observes her, noting her baby face, sparkling eyes, and red twin tails. Despite being the same age as him, her small stature gives her a youthful appearance, fitting her reputation as the most enthusiastic member of the group. Next, Mia apologizes for the hassle, stating she was curious to see the person Rei has become close to. He assesses her as a cool beauty rather than cute, noting her exceptional Japanese features and well-proportioned form that give her a prince-like popularity among female fans. Deciding to play it safe, Rintaro adopts a polite tone, stating it is an honor for the idols he supports to eat his food. However, both girls look stunned. Kanon immediately calls him out, revealing that Rei has already told them everything about him, specifically that he usually pretends to be nice but is actually quite rude. Rintaro turns to Rei, asking if she ruined his cover, but the twin-tailed girl interrupts, telling him there is no use acting. When Kanon calls him by his first name, Rintaro asks why she is being so familiar on their first meeting. She retorts that he should be honored, assuming he is a fan. When Rintaro bluntly states he isn't her fan, Kanon gets angry, accusing him of lying earlier. The boy warns her not to assume friendship so easily. Kanon points out that Rei calls him by his first name, so she should be able to as well. Irritated by her attitude, Rintaro remarks that he has every right to do what he wants with the bento. He threatens to leave the studio immediately with the food. Kanon freaks out, shouting that he is cheating. Her tough facade crumbles completely, and she begins crying like a baby, begging for the bento. He smiles, thinking that this girl is actually quite fun to tease. Suddenly, Rintaro notices Rei looking lost. When asked what is wrong, the idol pouts, remarking that he and Kanon are already getting along. Kanon teases her leader, asking if she is jealous that her best friend is clicking with someone else. Rei honestly admits that she is indeed jealous of how quickly the two are connecting, noting it took her much longer. Kanon is shocked by her incredible honesty. Rintaro reflects that Rei is so straightforward that her pure words often confuse him. Mia steps in, smoothing things over by saying, "It is nice to have more friends." She expresses happiness at having him as a friend. Rintaro asks if she is being too careless by treating an ordinary guy this way. The cool beauty asks if he dislikes it, then cryptically states that it doesn't matter what she calls him since they will become close friends in the future, regardless. Rintaro finds Mia to be cunning and convincing, definitely more troublesome than Rei. He realizes she is somewhat similar to himself. When he bluntly tells her he doesn't think they will get along, Mia smiles, replying that she might like his straightforwardness. Rei comments that she underestimated Rintaro's communication skills, surprised that he got along with both members so quickly. He denies getting along, asking if there is something wrong with her eyes. Mia smiles at the group, declaring that they should all get along from now on. Rintaro agrees to try, but internally, he feels a disconnect. Looking at the three idols, he realizes they have built an unseen world of sensibility among themselves that is vastly different from his own. He concludes that while there is a reason for the bento to be there, it feels like there isn't a reason for him to be there. Kanon and Mia are stunned to discover that the elaborate lunch spread before them is entirely handmade by Rintaro. They ask incredulously if he really made it all without using processed foods. The chef confirms that he did not use any ready-made items for Rei's lunch. Kanon decides to be the judge of whether he is truly capable of taking care of their leader's diet. She takes a bite of the fried chicken and is immediately floored by the taste. Unable to stop herself, she devours the potato salad and omelets, declaring them freaking good with her mouth still full. Rintaro notes that she is certainly quick to react after tasting the food. Mia follows suit, providing a sophisticated analysis of the flavors bursting in her mouth. Her food report is so precise and glowing that she concludes they will definitely want to keep Rintaro around Rei. He praises her perfect description. Finally, he looks to Rei, who nervously takes a bite. When she breaks into a genuine smile, the boy thinks to himself that this is the face he likes to see, relieved that she is so easy to understand. After the meal, Kanon tries to maintain her tough persona, granting Rintaro a mere passing grade. When he points out that she couldn't stop eating, the twin-tailed idol drops the act and enthusiastically admits the food was delicious, almost as good as a special short-rib lunch from a high-class yakiniku restaurant. She thanks him for the effort, and Rintaro mentally notes that despite her tsundere tendencies, she is capable of honest compliments. Mia adds that his cooking skills exceeded her expectations. Rintaro admits he put in extra effort because he didn't want them to think he lacks skill. Rei finishes her meal rapidly and thanks the chef. When Rintaro expresses surprise at her speed, the idol claims she has already started digesting the food and can feel the energy flowing through her body. The protagonist is baffled by her physiology, but packs up the empty boxes, preparing to leave now that his role is fulfilled. However, Mia stops him with a cool smile, inviting him to stay and watch their lesson. She explains that they are rehearsing for Melissa's upcoming second anniversary concert and are extremely fired up. Kanon chimes in, insisting it is a rare opportunity to see them perform for free, noting that their tickets are hard to come by. Rintaro hesitates, intending to go home, but Rei looks at him with pleading eyes. Unable to refuse her silent request, the boy sighs and agrees to stay, reasoning that it is indeed a good opportunity. The three idols take their positions, transforming the studio into a private concert just for him. Rei asks Rintaro to watch her closely. As the music starts, the protagonist is mesmerized. To his surprise, the movements of the three distinct individuals are perfectly synced. They turn and move with absolute precision, their expressions professional and captivating. Rintaro realizes that this chemistry is what makes them so popular. The performance would be perfect even without an audience. As they transition from intense songs to soft ballads, Rintaro watches Rei perform and suddenly feels a pang of distance, thinking that in this moment she looks like a far-off, unreachable star. As the song concludes, the rehearsal officially ends. Rintaro stands in stunned silence, clearly impressed by what he has witnessed. Although Rei is exhausted, she asks him for his thoughts. He applauds, calling the performance incredible and expressing his gratitude for the chance to see it. Noting the incredible amount of sweat dripping from the idols, he realizes the sheer physical toll of singing while dancing continuously. Kanon remarks that it looks like he is starting to respect them a bit more. Rintaro admits that his respect has indeed increased. When Kanon teases him about being uncomfortable with direct praise, the boy shifts his focus to Mia, thanking her for the experience. She replies that they can show him their performance anytime, provided he brings lunch, as she has taken quite an interest in his cooking. Rintaro is puzzled, struggling to understand what is so special about the cooking of an ordinary person. Mia explains that it is hard to put into words, but his food has a warm feeling to it. She elaborates that while being an idol is fun, the pressure builds up immensely. She reveals that she sometimes craves a normal high school life, and his lunch gave her that exact feeling, a sense of normalcy she is very grateful for. Hearing this, he finally understands why Ray took such a liking to his cooking. He looks at the group, noting that none of them deny Mia's sentiment. He realizes that even though they live in different worlds, they are all still just high school students at heart. Before leaving, the group exchanges contact information. Mia warns him that this is a private matter and forbids him from telling anyone. Rintaro promises to keep their secret. He asks Ray if she has plans. When she confirms she will follow her usual schedule, he heads home early to start dinner. As he walks back, Rintaro resolves to settle a specific matter with Ray once she gets home, hoping she will accept his decision. Back in the studio, Ray asks the other two members if they have thought about the proposal. Mia sees no problem with it. Kanon admits she didn't quite agree at first, but concedes that Rintaro looks like he can be trusted. Ray smiles, thanking them, and plans to discuss the matter with him tonight. Later that night at home, Rintaro finishes preparing dinner. He calls out to Ray, but stops when he sees her sleeping while holding a running hairdryer. Worried that she might burn her face or overexert herself after all the practice, he rushes over just as she begins to fall. He catches her and the hairdryer just in time. Flustered by the close contact, he carefully places her on the sofa. Ray wakes up when she smells food and shouts that it smells amazing. Rintaro laughs and says she must be hungry. He serves dinner, stuffed cabbage rolls and tomato soup. Ray says it's her favorite and starts eating right away. She tells him how good it tastes. Rintaro explains that steaming the cabbage for 30 minutes made it very soft. As he watches her happily eat the extra portion he made, he feels satisfied. However, once the meal is over, Rintaro suddenly shifts the mood. He places the bundle of money she gave him back onto the table. When Ray asks why, he looks her in the eye and declares that he is returning the money because he wants to end their contract. She is confused when Rintaro returns the 500,000 yen and demands to end their current contract. He explains that he left the money untouched because he wants to renegotiate the terms completely. He presents a new set of guidelines with 3 main clauses. First, he eliminates the salary entirely, asking only for minimal necessary expenses, estimating that 100,000 yen a month is sufficient. Second, he reduces his workload, stating he will not cook on Wednesday nights or during the day on weekends to accommodate his other part-time job, though he will prep meals beforehand. Finally, and most importantly, he strictly prohibits overnight stays unless there are unavoidable circumstances. Ray is clearly unhappy with the new rules, particularly the ban on sleepovers. Rintaro remains firm, arguing that it is strange for an unmarried man and woman to sleep under the same roof. He reveals his internal fear. If his presence causes a scandal, it would crush her dream and ruin his own future. He refuses to live under that pressure. Furthermore, he explains that receiving a salary makes their relationship feel like a restaurant service. He argues that if he keeps depending on the money, he will lose the warmth of the connection, stating that what is needed is consideration, not obligation, just like a real husband and wife. Seeing Ray's expressionless face, Rintaro stops talking, fearing he said too much. However, the idol surprisingly agrees, admitting that what he says is probably correct. She concedes that commuting back and forth is indeed troublesome. Rintaro says it cannot be helped, but Ray suddenly proposes a solution. She announces that she is going to live alone, but with a twist. She reveals that it has already been decided with her family and the other members of Melista that the 3 idols will rent an entire floor of an apartment building. The floor has 4 rooms and a private hallway, ensuring total privacy. Since there is 1 spare room, she suggests that Rintaro move in there. Rintaro panics, calling the idea too sudden and impossible. He worries about the rent, the tenant screening, and how Kanon and Mia would feel about a strange man living on their floor. Ray assures him that she will cover the rent and that the other 2 members have already agreed. She explains that the reason she invited him to the studio earlier was so Kanon and Mia could check him out, and he passed their test. Realizing the location is close to his office and school, Rintaro sees the benefit. Ray tells him to be ready to move by the end of next week. The scene shifts to school, where Rintaro is jolted awake by Yukio. Our lad realizes he slept through the first 2 periods. Yukio comments on how tired he looks and suggests the infirmary. Rintaro declines, explaining that he was up late packing because he is moving out. Yukio is disappointed that he won't be able to visit for a while, as he was looking forward to seeing Rintaro in an apron. However, the friend quickly cheers up, remembering that they have a cooking class during the 3rd and 4th periods today. In the home economics room, the students put on their aprons. Rintaro realizes he forgot to make his own lunch due to the chaos of packing. The teacher instructs the class to form groups of 6. Rintaro finds the group sizing troublesome, but Yukio is immediately approached by a group of girls. One girl, Miyamoto, who appears to have a crush on Yukio, invites him to join them, supported by her friends. Rintaro encourages his friend to go, claiming he can handle finding a group himself. Yukio reluctantly leaves, admitting he wanted to cook with Rintaro. Left alone, he realizes he needs to find a group quickly. Just then, Kakihara and Nikaido approach him, asking if he would like to join their group. Rintaro turns around and is momentarily stunned by the dazzling, cool face of Kakihara. A first-year student and the typical Eichmann, handsome guy, rumors swirl that he became a model after being scouted. Despite being in the same class and giving off a good guy vibe, Rintaro is reluctant to become friends with him, feeling that being around someone so perfect highlights his own flaws. Kakihara welcomes him to the group, noting they now have 5 members and need just 1 more. A girl introduces herself as Nikaido Azuki, Kakihara's close friend and the Class 2A representative. She has a classic Japanese beauty that is different from Rei's. She is always ranked in the top 5 of the grade academically, so almost everyone knows her. Another girl joins them, Nogi Hanuka, a gray-haired gyaru. She apologizes for forgetting Rintaro's name. Nogi is known for her amazing athletic ability and cheerful personality. Even though her grades are poor, she casually tastes a tomato and says it's delicious. Rintaro notices that even though Nikaido and Nogi seem very different, they are actually close friends. Soon, a muscular and friendly boy named Damoto Ryuji appears and happily says the gender balance is now even. He is part of the Kudo Club and is the strongest guy in the grade, someone no one wants to fight. However, because he always sleeps in class, his grades are the worst. At that moment, Rintaro realizes he has been brought in just to make up the numbers for the class's top cast group, made up of these 4 famous students. When Rintaro looks for the final member, his suspicion is confirmed. It is Rei Otasaki. She greets him formally, and he responds in kind, though he feels out of place among such popular students. As the group prepares to cook, everyone seems demotivated, lacking cooking skills. Rei thinks she is likely the only one who can cook well, but she hesitates to raise her hand to avoid seeming like she is bragging. She glances at Rintaro, silently pleading for help. Nikaido raises her hand, admitting she has some experience with hamburger steak, but finds other dishes daunting. Nogi praises her, jokingly asking her to marry her. Rintaro decides he doesn't want to be useless and volunteers, stating he has basic knife skills. Kakihara assigns Rintaro and Nikaido to the hamburger steak team. When asked about her skills, Rei hesitates, but Rintaro interrupts, casually mentioning that she makes her own lunch every day. Forced into the spotlight, Rei admits she prepares her own meals, and Kakihara assigns her and himself to make the veggie soup and rice. This leaves Nogi and Damoto as the final pair, who bicker about their lack of skills. Damoto admits he is only good at eating, while Nogi is reminded of the time she burned her bangs on Valentine's Day. Under Kakihara's natural leadership, the work begins. Nikaido watches Rintaro chopping vegetables and is amazed by his speed and precision, noting his beautiful knife work. Realizing he might be showing off too much skill, Rintaro lies, claiming he just loves preparing ingredients and practices a lot. Nikaido admits she has always been bad at cutting things. Rintaro comforts her, explaining that once the ingredients are mixed into the hamburger, the cut doesn't matter much. He adds that if the food tastes good to someone, that is all that matters, and cooking should suit one's own liking. Nikaido stares at him, speechless. When Rintaro asks what is wrong, she remarks that he looked genuinely happy talking about cooking. She observes that while he usually seems like he is just trying to fit in that moment, he seemed very honest. Rintaro is surprised by her perception, realizing the class representative is sharper than she looks. Nikaido then comments that she admires his skill, innocently guessing that he must have been taught by his mother. Hearing the mention of his mother, Rintaro freezes. In a sudden panic, his hand slips, and he accidentally cuts his finger. Nikaido shouts in alarm, asking what happened. The entire group panics at the sight of the blood, asking if Rintaro is okay. He insists it is just a small cut, but internally, he is shaken. He realizes he has never made such a basic error before, let alone in a public setting. Kakihara urges him to go to the infirmary immediately, promising that they will handle everything else. Rintaro apologizes and leaves the room. While the nurse bandages his finger, he reflects on the incident. He realizes that Nikaido's innocent comment, "It's like you were taught by your mother," was the trigger that caused this mess. He recalls how pale Nikaido looked after the accident and feels bad that she likely feels guilty. When he returns to the classroom, Kakihara checks on him. Rintaro reports that he is fine, but the nurse has forbidden him from doing any work involving water for the time being. The popular boy reassures him not to worry. He explains that Nikaido is handling the hamburger steak and the others are doing fine. Domoto, the muscle-bound student, proudly presents a cabbage salad, though Kakihara gently corrects him that it is actually lettuce. Nikaido approaches Rintaro, apologizing profusely for talking to him while he was using the knife. The boy reassures her that it wasn't her fault, he was simply being careless. He observes her work, noting that using breadcrumbs and eggs to bind the meat is standard procedure, and praises her performance. Nikaido lacks confidence, but Rintaro insists that if they cook it well, it will be delicious. During the cooking process, the banter continues lively among the group, but Rintaro catches Rei staring at him. The idol looks completely dumbfounded, likely shocked because she has never seen him make a mistake in the kitchen before. He whispers to her that he is okay, and she nods in understanding. To keep him involved, Kakihara asks Rintaro to prepare and decorate the table. Rintaro appreciates the thoughtfulness, realizing Kakihara knew he would feel guilty eating without helping. The meal is served: salad, hamburger steak, rice, and egg drop soup. Kakihara praises the meal as well made, and Domoto claims the meat makes his mouth water. Nikaido is relieved that it is delicious. Nogi takes a bite and praises herself as the #1 high school girl, though another student reminds everyone that Rintaro did half the work. The group thanks Rintaro for his help. Lunch is a lively affair filled with conversations about club activities, exams, music, and gossip. However, Rintaro barely registers the topics. He goes through the motions of joining the conversation, but the pain in his finger begins to spread. He wonders if it is truly just his finger that hurts, aware that behind his smile he is hiding a story he wants to keep to himself. The pain resonates with something unknown inside him, something from his past. He becomes so engrossed in these dark thoughts that he loses track of the rest of the school day, remembering nothing until he looks back at his notebook later. Later that night at home, Rintaro is preparing dinner while Rei watches him closely. She asks if his finger is okay. He confirms the bleeding stopped a while ago, but she continues to peek anxiously at him while he cooks. Finally, he asks if there is something she wants to talk about. Rei notes that it is the first time she has ever seen him cut his finger and points out that his current demeanor is totally different from usual. She asks if Nikaido's comment earlier bothered him. Rintaro denies it initially, but internally acknowledges that Rei is paying closer attention to him than he thought. He admits to her that Nikaido didn't say anything bad. Rather, his own mentality is weaker than he expected. After a silence, he asks Rei if she minds hearing a boring story. She replies that she really wants to know more about him. Rintaro begins to open up about his past. He explains that his father was a man completely devoted to work, coming home only a few times a year and missing every school event, sports day, and festival. Even on the day Rintaro was born, work was more important. The boy admits he doesn't remember ever being held or touched by his father. He was lonely, but he wasn't sad because he had his mother. However, when he was in the 5th grade, his mother left him. She told him she was sorry but needed her freedom. When he came home from school, she was already gone. He wanted to beg her not to leave, but he couldn't muster the courage to speak. He explains that she was fed up with taking care of him and his absent father, and she had found a new partner. Rintaro was simply in her way. Since then, he gets irritated whenever anyone mentions his mother, which is why Nikaido's comment shocked him so deeply. Concluding the story, Rintaro calls it boring and stands up to heat the coffee. Suddenly, Rei hugs him from behind. She whispers a request. "Please let me stay the night here." Rintaro's eyes widen in shock. Rintaro is flustered when Rei hugs him from behind, but she only tightens her grip, refusing to let go. She declares that no matter where he goes or what he says, she will not let him be lonely. Stunned, he looks into her eyes, sensing the seriousness in her words. He wonders why she is going so far for his sake and questions if his feelings for her have deepened beyond those of a caretaker and employer. Smiling, Rintaro thanks her, admitting he feels better now. He tries to regain his composure, but the physical proximity begins to give him bad thoughts. He politely suggests it is time for her to let go, but Rei reminds him she isn't going anywhere. The boy pulls away, claiming the closeness is bad for his heart. When Rei asks if he is feeling ill, he deflects, calling himself a humble, healthy high school student. Rei teases him about his sudden use of honorifics, which Rintaro finds upsetting. Later that night, the two enjoy coffee while watching TV. Rintaro decides to open up about his past, elaborating on his desire to become a full-time house husband. He explains that his motivation stems from his hatred for his mother and his dislike for his father's neglect. He wants to walk a completely opposite path to avoid repeating his father's mistakes. Internally, Rintaro realizes that while he usually dislikes talking about himself, Rei's quiet listening makes him feel calm. He apologizes that his dream is motivated by something so trivial, contrasting it with her hard work. However, Rei reassures him that any motivation is fine as long as it helps him pursue his dream. She argues that if he can use those experiences to fuel his ambition, it is a good thing. Ultimately, what matters is whether he can support that dream until he achieves it. Rintaro smiles, accepting her logic as plausible. Curious, Rintaro asks about her own dream of becoming an idol. Rei reveals that it all started when she was a child because of a boy who made her smile. She recounts a memory of hiding under a table to eat sweets, fearing she would be scolded for causing tooth decay. The boy told her not to worry and to trust him as long as she brushed her teeth properly afterward. Rei explains that she still admires that boy and wants to make him smile, just as he made her wish come true. She calls him a superhuman to her. Rintaro remarks that most people give up on their childhood dreams, realizing his own childhood dreams are now fuzzy. Rei counters that dreams are amazing because they keep you on track when things get tough. When Rintaro teases her for sounding like an idol, she laughs, admitting she sometimes needs to show off that side. Rintaro bursts out laughing, a genuine laugh he hasn't felt in a long time, and feels that he won't have any more painful flashbacks from today onward. The month of June arrives, bringing the rainy season and moving day. Rintaro stands in the middle of the huge apartment, stunned by its size. His cousin Yuzuki is also there, marveling at the luxury. She admits she is jealous that he was picked up by such a beautiful idol. Rintaro explains that since Yuzuki helped pay rent for his previous house, he had to tell her about the move. He reasons that the risk of information leaking is high, but since they are relatives, they can trust each other. Rei, a massive fan of Yuzuki's manga, nervously asks for an autograph. Yuzuki happily agrees and asks for Rei's autograph in trade. Rei praises the psychological depth and passion of Yuzuki's shounen manga, explaining that she loves manga as an art form that moves hearts, much like music and dance. Yuzuki teases Rintaro, telling Rei that while he can be rude, he is considerate, good at housework, and was popular in elementary school. When Rei asks for details, Yuzuki brings up an incident involving a certain girl. Rintaro quickly excuses himself to brew coffee to escape the conversation. In the kitchen, Rintaro reflects on his past popularity, attributing it to being taller and faster than other kids in elementary school. However, after middle school, his athletic ability declined, and his trauma regarding his mother prevented him from getting close to girls. He admires the large kitchen, thinking he can definitely get used to it. When he returns with the coffee, he finds Rei upset. She accuses him, saying, "You made a girl cry, Rintaro." Rintaro is completely confused by the accusation, asking what Rei means since he has no recollection of making a girl cry. Yuzuki clarifies that she isn't lying, however the tears were not of sadness. She explains that back when everyone in the family was against her becoming a mangaka, Rintaro was the only one who supported her, and that support moved her to tears. He realizes she is referring to a childhood memory. He recalls a time when he was in the 2nd grade, asking Yuzuki, whom he called Hamiko Ni-chan, if their aunt was really against her dream. The young boy had praised her drawings and made her promise that she would become a mangaka. Reflecting on the memory, Rintaro wonders why he said that back then, but he feels genuinely glad that his childhood words encouraged her to pursue her path. Yuzuki continues to praise him, telling Rei that she is glad Rintaro didn't quit his part-time job at her studio. She highlights that he is really good at the work, helps her whenever she is struggling, and makes her coffee whenever she wants. She jokingly warns the idol that all her assistants love him, so she won't let Rei monopolize him. Rintaro smiles, accepting his role as Hamiko Ni-chan's supporter. With the mood lightened, Yuzuki decides she better get back to work. She asks Rei to take care of Rintaro and disappears like the wind. Rintaro watches her go, wondering if the busy author is about to pull another all-nighter. Left alone in the new apartment, Rei asks if he reads any manga. He admits he only reads what is trending to save money where he can. Rei offers to give him some recommendations later, sure that he will find something he likes. Rintaro agrees to buy whatever he likes and decides it is time to start cooking. Rei asks if she can help, but Rintaro tells her to leave it to him. He admits he is feeling fired up because he gets to use the spacious new kitchen. He reveals his plan for the evening, a housewarming party with the other 2 Malista members. Although they initially planned to order delivery, Rintaro insisted on cooking and bought plenty of ingredients for the occasion. He starts by preparing grilled salmon in the oven. For the main dish, he prepares paella, noting that while it is too much for one person, it is perfect for friends and family. Finally, he places marinated spare ribs on the stove. While cooking, Rintaro finds himself thinking about the other members. Suddenly, Rei appears behind him and asks if he was thinking something rude about her. Rintaro denies it, internally wondering if she can read his mind. Just then, the doorbell rings, and the voices of the other members call out from outside, announcing their arrival. Rintaro tells Rei to let the guests in as he finishes plating the food, confident that he has outdone himself with this meal. Rei returns with Kanan, asking if they kept him waiting. Rintaro is momentarily flustered, unconsciously holding his breath as he looks at their outfits. He feels the same shock he felt when he first saw Rei out of uniform, realizing that seeing idols in casual clothes is a rare privilege. Kanan catches his stare and teases him, asking if he is charmed by her casual fit. Rintaro admits that he was, at least until she spoke. Mia enters, drawn by the delectable aroma, and asks if he made everything himself. Rintaro admits that the excitement of the new kitchen caused him to overdo the portions. Mia assures him it isn't a problem, as they exercise enough to handle the calories. Kanan presents some random snacks she picked up for later, macarons and cream puffs from famous shops near the station. Rintaro notes that their idea of random snacks involves high-end brands average people wouldn't buy casually. Rei adds 100% pure orange juice from Wakayama to the table, which Rintaro recognizes as yet another premium product. The group moves to the sofa to toast and eat. Kanan, claiming to be starving, digs into the paella. She asks Rintaro if he really made it, amazed that it looks like restaurant-quality food. She mentions that she usually cooks for her younger brother and sister, so she knows the effort involved. Upon tasting it, she shouts that it is delicious, validating Rintaro's hard work. Mia tries the spare ribs, commenting that the meat melts in her mouth and the seasoning hits the right spot. Rintaro thanks her, always appreciating her detailed commentary. Realizing that Rei gets to eat this food every day, the other two members express their jealousy. Mia whispers to Rei, asking her to lend Rintaro to her. Rei immediately refuses, declaring that Rintaro is only hers. He observes their bickering, mentally noting that he doesn't recall ever belonging to Rei. Mia then turns her attention to the chef, asking if he would like to come to her place. Rintaro politely declines, sensing that she is even more devilish than Rei. When Mia tells him to relax, Rintaro thinks that she is definitely plotting something. He finds her hard to read and feels it would be a bad idea to get too involved with her. Kanan brings up a practical point. Since they all live in the same place now, it would be dull to separate into different rooms to eat alone. Rintaro agrees, but points out that Rei is paying him with her own money, so he cannot cook for everyone for free. Mia proposes a solution. If she and Kanan provide their own ingredients, he can cook for them too. Rei agrees, as long as she still gets to eat his food. Rintaro accepts, noting that the added workload won't be significant. With dinner finished, Rei suggests they watch a movie while eating snacks. She pulls a disc from her bag, claiming she has wanted to watch it ever since she saw it on a streaming site. She enthusiastically presents the choice to the group. It turns out to be a horror movie featuring a woman with a chainsaw. The other members freak out, terrified by her selection. Mia points curiously at the disc in Rei's hand, asking about her selection. The center idol offers a gentle smile, revealing that she has chosen a horror film. Mia notes that the cover art makes the genre quite obvious, but Rei quickly interjects to justify her reasoning. She admits that while she typically struggles with scary movies, she feels confident that watching one alongside her friends will make the experience manageable. The other three stare at her in silence, their expressions skeptical. They find it difficult to match her cheerful attitude with the movie's violent cover art, which suggests a story full of murder and chaos. They are surprised that she would choose such a gruesome title in the first place. Kanan eventually breaks the silence, suggesting that the excitement of watching it together might actually make it fun. Hearing this, Rintaro reflects that Rei has a talent for looking at things positively. Still, he quietly agrees that watching a movie with others feels very different from watching one alone. Mia then looks at their host and asks if he can even handle a film like this. Seeing a chance to be helpful, and maybe avoid the situation, he offers to clean up the dinner leftovers while the girls watch the movie. However, she immediately rejects the idea, insisting that Rei would be too scared without him there. Realizing that there is no way out, he accepts his fate and starts the movie. As the film begins, it reveals itself to be a bizarre, magical adaptation of a horror flick rather than a standard slasher. He watches with a detached interest, sensing that certain scenes are likely cult favorites among genre enthusiasts, even if he doesn't personally find them pleasing. He falls into a trance-like state, mindlessly letting an hour slip by. When he finally breaks his gaze from the screen to check on his guests, he is stunned by what he sees. Only Mia is still awake. To his disbelief, both Kanan and Rei the very person who suggested the movie, have fallen fast asleep. He stares at their peaceful forms, feeling a mix of annoyance and amusement. He mentally scolds Rei for abandoning the activity she initiated, wondering why he even bothered worrying about her fear tolerance. He considers stopping the movie since the majority of the audience is unconscious, but quickly realizes that Mia is in no state to let him move. The idol is terrified, clinging tightly to his arm. She begs him not to leave her side. The sudden proximity flusters him, his heart rate spiking not from the movie's scares but from the physical contact. Unable to focus on the screen, he tries to distract her by asking if she is bad with horror movies. She admits she cannot stand them and asks about his tolerance. He offers a relaxed smile, explaining that he is quite accustomed to them thanks to his movie buff friend, Inaba. However, his calm is contrasted by the girl beside him, who flinches and shouts at the next jump scare, tightening her grip. He encourages her to hang in there, though he feels he is the one struggling to keep his composure. When the credits finally roll, he sighs in relief. He looks over at her, expecting her to be traumatized, but she is sobbing with emotion, claiming the movie was surprisingly touching. Dragging himself back to reality, our boy stands up and observes the two sleeping girls. He decides to wake them to prevent them from catching a cold, but Mia stops him. She suggests letting them rest a bit longer and covering them with a blanket. Then, with a shift in her demeanor, she proposes that they have a private chat. He feels a sense of foreboding, likening her expression to a predator eyeing its prey, but knows he cannot avoid her forever. He covers Rei and Kanan with a blanket and sits on the opposite sofa. Mia chuckles, telling him to drop his guard because she isn't his enemy. He retorts that he will be the judge of that. Getting straight to the point, she expresses her gratitude for him staying by Rei's side. She describes the center idol as an incredibly cautious individual who constantly pushes herself to the limit. He nods, admitting that he already sensed that about her. She delves deeper, revealing that Rei feels she can relax in his home in a way she cannot at her own. She points out that the idol smiles much more lately, implying he is the cause. The boy humbly says he is glad to hear that. Mia leans in and wonders if he truly believes that is all there is to it. When he replies that he simply respects Rei a lot, she presses him further. Then she drops a question that completely catches him off guard. Does he think his feelings might actually be love? The weight of the question leaves him stunned and completely unprepared for how to respond. The atmosphere grows tense as he processes Mia's bold question. He wonders if she means being in love with Rei. Mia leans closer, confirming that this is exactly what she means. He stiffens, but keeps his response calm. He admits that while he likes the idol, he does not love her in a romantic sense. Instead, he states that the only woman he plans to love is his future wife. Mia scoffs at the reply, calling his way of thinking needlessly manly. He clarifies that he never wants to betray the person he loves, which is why he is so careful about choosing a future partner. He points out that he has only known Rei for a month. Feelings might grow over a year, he admits, but love at first sight seems unlikely to him. He finishes by apologizing for what he calls a lame answer. To his surprise, Mia admits she is glad he answered that way. Crouching down slightly, she murmurs that it means she still has a chance. The remark makes him extremely nervous, and an awkward silence settles between them. A moment later, she stands up and bursts into laughter, revealing that she was only teasing him. He sighs with relief and remarks that if she truly fell for him, he doubts she would ever leave him alone. Mia agrees, joking that she uses every trick available to make sure her target cannot escape. The idol then turns serious, noting that love is a major no-go for them anyway. Their fans would riot if one of them started dating, and keeping such a relationship secret would be far too risky for public figures. He agrees, quietly reminding himself that protecting what they already have matters more than acting on selfish feelings. Mia decides it is time to sleep, mentioning that staying up all night is terrible for her skin. As she heads out, she offers to help tidy up, but he insists on handling the kitchen himself. She calls him stoic, wishes him good night, and thanks him for the meal. Once alone, he turns his attention to the sleeping girls. He wakes Kanan first. Still half asleep, she mumbles something about morning. He tells her it is the middle of the night and sends her to bed. Watching her stumble away, he hopes she manages to reach her room safely. Next he wakes Rei, warning her that she might catch a cold sleeping there. She rises obediently, but wonders if he truly wants to clean up alone. He reassures her that it will not be a problem. She leaves quietly without arguing, which makes him wonder whether her calm obedience comes from sleepiness or something else. Later, the scene shifts into a dream. A young Rintaro stands at a fancy party surrounded by well-dressed adults. He looks down at his small feet and realizes that this must be a memory from elementary school. His father reminds him to behave properly. Soon a stranger approaches with a little girl hiding behind him. The girl introduces herself as Rei. Young Rintaro is mesmerized. With her blonde hair and sparkling diamond-like eyes, she looks like a living doll. Without thinking, he blurts out to his father that the girl is really cute. The adults laugh, and her father suggests that the children play together while the men discuss business. Rintaro grabs her hand and leads her around the room. They soon find a table covered with sweets, but Rei refuses a slice of cake, explaining that her father warned her sweets would cause toothaches. Thinking that is a waste, Rintaro suggests they eat secretly instead. He lifts the tablecloth and creates a small hideout beneath the table, inviting her inside. As long as she brushes her teeth later, he insists, everything will be fine. She finally takes a bite and lights up with delight. Wanting to see that smile again, he keeps running back to the table, bringing her more treats. In the dream, the older Rintaro reflects that he simply wanted to see her smile. Making others happy has always brought him joy. The next morning he wakes up, scratching his head. He remembers dreaming about a childhood memory, yet one question remains in his mind. Who was that girl? His mind feels hazy as he brushes his teeth, struggling to recall the details of a dream he just saw. He knows it was a childhood party, but the important parts slip away like smoke, leaving him frustrated. Later, while he drinks his morning coffee, the girls appear, fully dressed and ready for the day. Rei greets him brightly. Surprised, he asks if they have work this early on a Sunday. She confirms they need to prepare for a live show scheduled in a month. He calculates that it must be for July 1st. He notes they had a show at the start of the year, correctly deducing this one is for their second anniversary. She is impressed, teasing him for knowing so much despite his claims of disinterest. He admits that the previous live session was a surprisingly good experience. Seizing the moment, she asks if he will come to the next performance. He hesitates. Winning a lottery ticket against the odds seems impossible. She dismisses his concern, pulling out a family ticket. He asks if it is all right for him to accept it. She assures him it is. She just needs to claim he is a relative. Mia explains they are limited in how many people they can invite. Since they debuted only 2 years ago, they lack industry acquaintances, and inviting school friends would look like favoritism. Kanan demands that he better come for her sake too, complaining about young actors approaching her with ulterior motives. She claims it would be a pain to cause misunderstandings by talking to them. He raises an eyebrow, bluntly stating he is surprised people hit on her. Offended, Kanan asserts that a cutie like her naturally attracts attention. Rei bluntly interjects that Kanan would be cuter if she talked a little less. As they bicker, he thinks to himself that messing with Kanan looks like fun. Mia announces their car has arrived. The girls don masks and glasses, looking like total strangers as they leave for work. He reminds himself that they aren't the only ones busy. He picked up a job as his cousin's assistant on a whim. Riding his bicycle, he enjoys the fresh air before arriving at Yuzuki's building. She apologizes for working on a Sunday, revealing a mountain of deadlines, a manuscript, a book, and a one-shot all due this month. She asks him to help sketch, calling him kind and promising to pay him back. He agrees to help just this once. As they work, Yuzuki remembers something and tosses some aquarium tickets at him. An assistant gave them to her after a breakup, but she has no time to use them. He points to himself, wondering if she implies he should take Rei. She encourages him, saying he won't know until he tries. He decides that if the idol is busy, he will give the tickets to Inaba, though he feels guilty that his friend is the backup plan. Yuzuki eyes him mischievously, asking if this is his first date and joking that she expects the full story afterward. He gets annoyed, calling it unfair for an adult to tease a high schooler about dating when she hasn't gone on one either. His words hit hard, earning him a shout for insensitivity. Later at home, he cooks dinner while agonizing over the invitation. He rehearses lines in his head, realizing a guy inviting a girl out will inevitably look like a date. The gate opens, and Rei enters, sniffing the air. She excitedly asks if it is curry. He confirms he remixed a Japanese recipe. Her mouth waters, and she devours the food, praising it as far superior to the second-rate curry she had previously. Noticing her fanning her red face, he asks if it is too spicy. She admits the heat makes it good. He pours her iced tea, and she immediately asks for seconds. After dinner, he sits nervously on the sofa while she watches TV. He breaks the silence, asking when today's recording will air. She replies it will be in 2 weeks. Silence returns. Nervously, he slides the tickets across the table. She looks at them, then at him. He clarifies how Yuzuki-san gave them to him and wonders if she wants to join. She stares at the ticket without speaking. He starts rambling to fill the void, suggesting she might be tired. When she still doesn't respond, panic sets in. He suggests that an idol going out with a boy might be suspicious, offering to give her the ticket so she can go with her group instead. Suddenly, she interrupts him and says, "Go." Stunned, he asks what she means. Back in the living room, Rei shouts with absolute determination that she will absolutely go to the aquarium. Rintaro is slightly intimidated by her sudden intensity, but agrees to the plan. She promises to disguise herself effectively so she won't stand out, noting that she happens to have the next Sunday off anyway. With a bright smile of excitement, she declares she cannot wait, and with that, the date is officially confirmed. Finally, Saturday arrives. He stands outside the aquarium, sweltering in the oppressive heat. He reflects that although it is technically the rainy season, the weather feels like the middle of summer. Because they live together, they had to travel separately to avoid the paparazzi. He took the train while she took a taxi. Looking down at his black t-shirt and jeans, he wonders if he made the right choice of clothing for hanging out with a girl. A taxi pulls up, and she steps out. He observes her disguise, which consists merely of glasses and a hat, thinking sarcastically that surely no one would fail to guess it is her. She walks toward him, asking if she kept him waiting long. He honestly answers, about 5 minutes, causing her to complain. She admits she expected him to say the chivalrous line, "I just arrived." He awkwardly admits that saying something like that is too embarrassing for him. Smiling, she remarks that it has been ages since she last visited an aquarium. She explains that her parents were always busy, so her last visit was an elementary school trip. He realizes her experience mirrors his own. He recalls a rare time his mother took him out, realizing now that the trip was likely her way of apologizing before leaving him behind. She breaks his melancholy train of thought by thanking him for asking her out, stating she wants to enjoy the day to the fullest. He agrees, feeling that despite his bad memories of this place, today will be fun. Inside, she is enchanted by the marine life. He points out a clownfish, referencing a movie, and identifies a seahorse for her. Seeing her eyes sparkle behind her glasses, he resolves to properly thank Yuzuki later for the tickets. She excitedly points out the dolphin show. When asked, she admits she loves dolphins because cute animals are the best thing in the whole world. He notes that she is acting like a child, realizing that beneath the perfectly polished idol persona, she is really just a normal girl at heart. At the show, the dolphins perform spectacular tricks, spinning and dancing in the air. She is mesmerized, having never seen a live show before. Suddenly, the dolphins jump, splashing a massive amount of water onto the front row. She gets completely drenched. He, also wet, asks if she is all right. However, when he looks at her, he panics. The water has soaked her white clothes, leaving them embarrassingly transparent. She remains oblivious to this wardrobe malfunction. He decides not to ruin the moment since they are in the front row where no one else can see, resolving to wait until the show ends to tell her. As soon as the show finishes, he quickly takes her hand and runs. When she asks if he needs the toilet, he bluntly tells her they need to sort out her clothes right away. Realizing her state, she hurriedly tries to cover herself, completely embarrassed. They head to the souvenir shop, the only option for clean clothes. The shelves are filled with creature-themed shirts. She suggests they buy one each. He hesitates, worrying that matching shirts will make them look like a couple. She counters that since today is a date, she would like for them to match. Struck by her words, he agrees but insists on the dolphin design. After changing, he feels self-conscious walking around in the souvenir shirt but decides to prioritize her happiness. When he exits, he is stunned. She looks beautiful in the shirt, giving off a completely different vibe that makes the outfit look picturesque. She asks if she kept him waiting. This time he smiles and delivers the line he couldn't say before. "Not at all. I just got here myself." She laughs, delighted. They spend the rest of the day taking photos with fish and petting turtles, genuinely enjoying themselves. Later, she offers to get drinks from the vending machine to pay him back for the tickets. He tries to go instead, but she insists on doing it herself. As he waits, he reflects on how time flies when he is having fun. Suddenly, a girl stops nearby and looks at him. He looks back, and the girl calls out, "Shidao-kun?" He freaks out, recognizing her as Nikaido. He realizes this is a disaster. At this rate, she might recognize Rei. Rintaro is caught off guard when Nikaido addresses him. Overcome by his internal panic, he hesitantly greets her, his main concern being blocking her line of sight to hide Rei. Before he can process the situation, a male voice interrupts, asking who she is talking to. He recognizes the voice instantly. It belongs to Kakiharu, accompanied by Damoto and Nozari. Seeing the group of popular students, he feels intimidated, wondering why the normies are all gathered here. Trying to act casual, he comments that the group seems as close as ever. Demoto, the muscle-bound member, jokingly replies that the comment makes him blush. However, the situation tightens when Nikaido notices his t-shirt. She points out the dolphin design, unaware of its significance. He realizes he is in trouble. The unique shirt could easily link him to the idol. He peeks toward the vending machine, relieved that Rei hasn't noticed the commotion yet, and silently prays she stays away a little longer. Nikaido extends an invitation, asking if he wants to join them. Both he and Kakiharu are visibly displeased. She insists, arguing that since they met by chance, it would be a waste not to hang out. Sensing the tension, Kakiharu tries to intervene by suggesting that Rintaro probably needs to head home. He jumps on this excuse, apologizing for being a bother and claiming he would just get in the way. However, she refuses to back down. She boldly states that she wouldn't mind being with him all the time, a declaration that shocks everyone. He is baffled, while Kakiharu sharply tells her not to decide things on her own. Observing the popular boy's expression shift to gloominess, Rintaro deduces the truth: jealousy. Having seen similar dynamics in elementary school, he realizes Kakiharu likes Nikaido. Her friendly invitation has created a misunderstanding that threatens his peaceful school life. Deciding he has no choice but to defuse the situation, he raises a hand and drops a bombshell. He apologizes, but states that his girlfriend will be back soon. The group is stunned. They bombard him with questions, surprised that someone so low profile has a girlfriend. As they look around for her, he deflects, explaining that she is extremely shy and wouldn't be comfortable around strangers. While the boys lament the missed opportunity to meet her, he notices a blank expression on Nikaido's face, as if her heart has shattered. She looks utterly gloomy. He wonders if the jealousy was unfounded and if she might genuinely have feelings for him. To smooth things over, he politely thanks her for the invitation. Relieved by the rejection, Kakiharu proposes that they leave, and a subdued Nikaido nods in agreement. As they walk away, he breathes a sigh of relief, noting that the tension has faded. He sits on a bench, exhausted, but his mind lingers on Nikaido's strange reaction. Just then, Rei approaches from behind. She wonders aloud whether his remark about having a girlfriend referred to her. He turns, realizing she heard everything. She admits she caught part of the conversation but stayed back to avoid being noticed. He stands up and apologizes for the implication, clarifying that it was necessary to shake them off. She reassures him that it is fine and that she doesn't mind. Relieved, he proposes that they head outside before the group returns. She readily agrees, adding that she would like to get something to eat, and they leave together. Unbeknownst to them, Nikaido watches from a nearby wall, recognizing the girl as Otosaki Rei. Later, they visit a ramen shop. She slurps down her noodles with gusto and immediately orders another bowl. He watches in amazement as she starts her third serving. Noticing his stare, she teases him, wondering if he isn't hungry. Snapping out of it, he orders another bowl for himself, marveling internally at how she maintains her figure despite her appetite. She compliments the shop, remarking that she might come back. While eating, she brings up a place she wants to visit and invites him to come along. He accepts without hesitation. They walk through the streets, and he reflects that he doesn't mind joining her, even without knowing the destination. They take a taxi in silence, and he notices she is unusually quiet during the ride. After an hour-long journey, they arrive. Getting out of the taxi, he looks around in confusion. She apologizes softly for dragging him out, but she wanted him to see this place. When he wonders why, she gestures toward a massive building in the distance. The Nippon Budokan. She declares that this is her next goal. Rei raises her hand, clenching a fist tightly as she declares that her dream is finally within reach. She turns toward Rintaro with a bright smile, noting that people around her have recently commented on her cheerful expression. She attributes this positive change entirely to him. When Rintaro tries to downplay his involvement, she dismisses his modesty, insisting that his influence on her happiness is indisputable. He blushes at the direct praise, acknowledging internally that she has indeed been smiling more often. He assures her that she doesn't need to feel indebted to him. He is genuinely having fun and enjoying his life these days. Rei breathes a sigh of relief, admitting she was worried she had been a burden. He bluntly counters that he isn't nice enough to continue a relationship if he found it bothersome, so she has nothing to worry about. Despite his reassuring words, Rintaro feels a wave of awkwardness. He reflects on the fact that his altruism is supported by the financial compensation he receives from her. Because his motives are transactional, being thanked so sincerely makes him feel guilty. Sensing a shift in the mood, he asks if something is bothering her. When she denies it, he decides not to pry any further. Suddenly, she turns to him and asks if he will stay by her side going forward. He is initially shocked by the weight of the request but quickly smiles. He promises that as long as she doesn't abandon him, he will stay with Otosaki Rei. Satisfied, she suggests they head back home. As they walk, Rintaro's thoughts turn cynical. He wonders how long this arrangement can possibly last. Will he stay until she retires as an idol, until she finds a real lover, or until their relationship is exposed to the public? Having been pushed away by his own family, he knows all too well that nothing lasts forever. A week passes. With only 3 weeks remaining until their live show, the Melista trio is incredibly busy. Rei is working late, leaving Rintaro alone in the apartment. He sits at his desk, staring gloomily at a parent-teacher meeting notice. He knows his father won't attend, even if asked. Resigned to facing the conference alone, he crunches the paper into a ball and tosses it aside. His solitude is interrupted by a message from Kanan asking him to step out onto the veranda. He walks out to the partition wall, separating their balconies. She pops her head around the divider, grinning. She teases him, saying he should be happy to talk to a transcendent beauty like her late at night. He deadpans that he isn't interested, noting that her lack of effect on his heart rate makes it easy to talk to her. She jokingly threatens to beat him up, but the banter is comfortable. He appreciates that he can communicate with her without her appearance becoming an obstacle. Kanan shifts the topic to his recent date with Rei. She reveals that she hasn't been able to avoid the subject because the idol has been talking about how much she enjoyed it for the entire week. He is relieved to hear from a third party that Rei truly had a good time. Pressing for details, she asks what happened during the date. He jolts and denies any romantic developments. She narrows her eyes, suggesting that Rei seems serious about him. However, she quickly turns serious herself. She warns him that if they end up dating, they must never get caught. She bluntly states that she doesn't want to lose her job or her dream because of a scandal. He agrees immediately, affirming that he wants to protect her dream as well. To lighten the mood, she asks a teasing hypothetical question about whether he would lose his composure in an awkward situation. He honestly admits that most people their age would probably be flustered by that. They share a laugh over his lack of experience. As the conversation winds down, he asks what she really needed. She smiles, admitting he is sharp for noticing she had an ulterior motive. Dropping the playful act, she asks if she can come over to his room.